The Timekeeper's Burden. The Gunpowder Treason. My name is Elijah, a historian displaced in time. I have seen the rise and fall of civilizations and witnessed the inventions and innovations of humanity. Yet I have also been set to a purpose. Turning points in human history that have the power to alter the very fabric of our past and future. They can take us to greatness or destruction. This is my burden. This is my duty. I must ensure that these moments happen the way they are meant to, and ensure the continued flow of the timeline. I find myself in London. It was October 26, 1605 AD. As I moved cautiously through the narrow streets toward Westminster, fragments of conversations reached my ears. A passion fueled by religious fervor mingled dangerously with plans for violence. I knew what lay ahead. Chaos was driven by desperation, and if left unchecked, it could change not just England but ripple throughout time itself. In a dimly lit tavern where shadows danced like phantoms on wooden beams above me, I found my compatriots. A group of English Catholics led by Robert Catesby. The plan was to blow up the House of Lords and kill King James I during the state opening of Parliament on November 5, 1605. This would be a prelude to a revolt in the Midlands during which King James's 9-year-old daughter, Princess Elizabeth, was to be installed as the new head of state. 13 men sat around the table in the tavern. His fellow conspirators were John and Christopher Wright, Robert and Thomas Winter, Thomas Percy, Guy Fawkes, Robert Keyes, Thomas Bates, John Grant, Ambrose Rookwood, Sir Everard Digby, and Francis Tresham. The tavern keep and the conspirators looked to the door with alarm when I entered. All of them visibly relaxed when they saw it was me. "Gentlemen," I greeted them as I shut the door. I moved in and took a place at the table with them. "Mr. Elijah," Catesby said. "Were you able to get it?" he asked me. I reached into my top coat and extracted a spooled-up fuse. "I was able to get 50 feet. I handed them to the military veteran of the group, Guy Fawkes. "Will that be enough?" "I have been able to get 35 barrels of powder," he replied. "Maybe enough for one more." Fawkes took the spool from me and examined it. "This should work." He slipped them inside of his coat. "Excellent," Catesby said. "Now we are set to carry out God's work. On the 5th of November, we will do what we have been called to do." He raised his hand as if to bestow a blessing. A few of the men even tilted their heads slightly. "May God guide our actions. Have courage and trust in God who helps you in all things." "Trust in God," the men responded. They all rose and began to leave for the assigned tasks. I had my own to complete. One they were not aware of. I slipped discreetly out of the bar and down the street into London's labyrinthine alleys once more. My mission this time was to deliver an anonymous letter to Baron William Parker, 4th Baron Monteagle. I had plans to meet with one of the Baron's courtiers. I would meet him at the London market as he bought supplies for the Baron's house. The busheling activity of the market was a stark contrast to the dimly lit bar I just left. Children running, parents calling after them, and bartering goods generated a cacophony of noise. I found him in the Leadenhall market. Since he also did some of the cooking for the house, he was picking up food items for his main cook. I approached him. Not a word was said between us. With deft hands cloaked in anonymity, I slipped the sealed letter warning Parker about Fawkes' plot into his basket between the eggs and a bag of grain. "Good day to you," I said as we passed. He responded with the same courtesy and covered the letter with a fold of cloth he had just selected for making napkins. Later, Baron Monteagle would be at his home after his day of work at Parliament. He sat down to an evening meal and a bundle of correspondence that arrived that day. Slipped in the middle of that bundle was a letter that did not come the usual way. He unsealed the letter and removed it from the nondescript envelope. As he began to read, he picked up his tankard, half filled with ale. The tankard then clattered to the floor as Parker jumped out of his chair. Parker's brow furrowed deeply. Worry etched lines across his noble face as whispers wove tales too dangerous for open ears. He then bolted out of the room. He had to summon King James' Chief Minister Robert Cecil, 1st Earl of Salisbury, immediately. The next few days were fraught with dread as adrenaline surged within me, a visceral connection between past actions and future consequences igniting every fiber of my being. As darkness descended upon Westminster's imposing silhouette under starlit skies shrouded by smoke from hearths far below, my sense of destiny drew near. Cecil decided to bide his time and observe the situation, especially since King James I was preoccupied with a hunting expedition for Cambridgeshire. Once the king returned to London, the letter was presented to him on Friday, November 1st. On the 4th of November, the king's loyal men scoured the Parliament vaults and stumbled upon a hefty stack of firewood in a cellar. To their astonishment, they also found Fawkes, who introduced himself as John Johnson. He claimed the firewood belonged to his master, Thomas Percy. This only deepened their suspicions, for Percy was already infamous among the authorities as a Catholic troublemaker. James I ordered a second search, and in the early hours of Tuesday, November 5th, Fawkes was found this time dressed in a cloak and hat, wearing boots and spurs and carrying fuses and matches. He was arrested. 36 barrels of gunpowder were later discovered. A cacophony erupted soon after. Guards stormed tunnels beneath Parliament where barrels and Fawkes were found. Cries echoed off cold stone walls while conspirators fled like moths drawn too close to flame when light pierced their secrets wide open. I lingered long enough to witness Parker's grim satisfaction at thwarting calamity before retreating into obscurity once again, a shadow among shadows, as history resumed its rightful course without ever knowing how narrowly it had escaped annihilation. As dawn broke over London, golden rays breaking through soot-laden clouds, I walked away from chaos unfurling behind me like smoke dispersing into the ether. In solitude, my mind began to think and remember. A poem came to me and I softly spoke it against the winds. Remember the 5th of November. The gunpowder treason and plot. I know no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Each word hung heavy on my lips. A poem that would be coined and recited throughout the centuries. So I continued onward, a guardian unyielding against time's relentless march forward, waiting patiently for another moment when intervention might again become necessary.